Here now with more is Lincoln Bloomfield. He is a former U.S. ambassador as well as a national security official in both the Reagan and both Bush administrations. Ambassador, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about the tone of what went on in Japan. I mean, there are a lot more details beyond the fish as well. They went and played 9 holes of golf. Apparently, there was a fist bump in the middle there. The prime minister had a hat ready for President Trump that said, "Making our alliance great again," or something similar to that. He had a special American hamburger waiting for him because he knows the president is a picky eater. I mean, it's a bit of what we call a bromance between these two. What do you think?
It certainly is, Melissa. The U.S. and Japan have a full-bodied friendship, alliance, and relationship of trade, intermarriage, students, military. It's one of the central relationships the United States has in the world. So I think Prime Minister Abe was simply reflecting the fact that, A, he just got elected by a very large margin, so he's in very good shape politically. And he's welcoming the U.S. president to Japan, and, so he did a good job with that.
Meanwhile, the president saying things that were rattling nerves around the country, talking about the samurai nation, a warrior nation. Listen to what he had to say.
He will shoot them out of the sky when he completes the purchase of lots of additional military equipment from the United States. He will easily shoot them out of the sky.
What do you think about that? Combining, sort of the saber rattling with the idea that we're going to sell him great weapons. What do you think about that approach?
Well, there's a lot to do in keeping the military relationship very tight because high technology requires interoperability. So that's I was in Japan last week. There's a lot of talk about the technical side of that. But Japan has a pacifist constitution, Article 9. Ever since throughout the post-war era, Japan has been a peaceful nation that only defends itself when attacked. I heard Japanese experts tell me that if a missile doesn't hit Japan, then they really aren't under attack. So there's some question as to who can shoot at a missile that's flying over Japan. There have been 2 ballistic missiles fired by North Korea over Hokkaido, so they're very much on edge, but it may be that the Americans are the only ones who legally can fire at a missile that's crossing over Japanese airspace.
That's very interesting. All right, meanwhile, the crackdown in Saudi Arabia, the arrest coming as that nation looks to modernize and reform, led by its 32-year-old Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Notable among the arrests, of course, Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. He is a billionaire investor well known in this country. He has numerous companies invested in, including Twitter and 21st Century Fox. There's kind of, in my mind, I've been to the kingdom many times. I've covered Saudi Arabia for a long time. There's kind of 2 ways to look at this. I mean, it's either a modernization and a crackdown on, any sort of corruption that may be going on there, or it's a consolidation of power, as there are so many princes, and this is about who's in charge, who's going to take over next. What do you read into this?
Well, Melissa, it's a little of both. Like you, probably, I've stayed at the 4 Seasons in Riyadh, and I didn't feel like I was in a high-security prison, that's for sure. I think that he is signaling that change is coming. Look, he's arresting the more radical preachers, which is very controversial in a religiously conservative country of Saudi Arabia. He's got a war in Yemen. He's got a boycott against Qatar, who they believe has been undermining the stability of, the royal regimes of the Arabian Gulf, and they want to make sure they last for a long time. He's got an IPO for Aramco, which opens up their oil sector to international investment. There's so many balls in the air that I think he's sending a signal to the business community that things are changing. Women are going to be driving and allowed in stadiums. These are cultural changes. The religious people have to let this happen. So I think he's saying, look, a new king is coming soon. He'll be the first of the 3rd generation king. So 54 sons of the founder some of them have taken their turns, and now King Salman gets to be the one whose son continues the lineage. That's pretty important because nobody else's son is carrying the lineage forward. So Mohammed bin Salman is the future king, and I think there's just a lot of pressure to show who's boss and get people ready for a new generation.
Interesting. Ambassador, great insight. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you'll come back.
My pleasure.